Commander Vasek Snur of the Kelari Confederation scrutinized the holographic display with 8 of his eye stalks, while the remaining 2 focused on Admiral Phaser, whose purple scales had faded to an alarming lavender. "You cannot be serious," Vasek stated, mandibles clicking in agitation. "They are just humans, squishy, fragile things without proper exoskeletons. How could they possibly have survived our initial assault?" Admiral Phaser tossed a data crystal onto the command console. "See for yourself. Not only did they survive, but they pushed our forces back. The 12th Armada is completely gone." "Gone as in retreated?" "No, Commander, as in obliterated. 17 capital ships, 200 fighters, and nearly 30,000 of our best warriors. They vaporized." Vasek scoffed, a wet, gurgling sound that sent droplets of blue spittle across the pristine floor of the command center. "That's astronomically improbable. Our intelligence indicated the humans barely had interplanetary travel capabilities. They were supposed to be primitive." His voice rose to a shriek that made junior officers nearby flinch. "And yet," Admiral Phaser said, gesturing to the hologram, "here we are." A holographic replay showed the initial Kelari assault on the human colony, Proxima Centauri B. The attack had been meticulously planned: drop out of hyperspace, neutralize orbital defenses, establish air superiority, then land ground forces to secure the planet. Except, the humans didn't follow the textbook. The video showed the first wave of Kelari ships emerging from hyperspace, immediately firing upon the pathetic orbital platforms the humans called defenses. Then, without warning, hundreds of previously undetected vessels swarmed from the planet's dark side. "What are those ships?" Vasek demanded. "Our intelligence never mentioned vessels of that configuration." Phaser's voice dropped to a whisper. "We don't know. They don't match any known human design. It's as if they built an entirely new fleet in secret." The hologram continued, showing the strange human vessels darting between Kelari ships with impossible agility. Unlike the ponderous capital ships of most spacefaring races, these craft moved like insects, changing direction instantly, without apparent concern for inertia. And they were devastating. Bursts of blue fire erupted from Kelari vessels as the human ships struck with weapons that somehow bypassed their shields entirely. The Confederation's mighty dreadnoughts, each the product of decades of engineering and resources equivalent to a small planet's GDP, popped like soap bubbles. "Computer, pause playback," Vasek commanded. The hologram froze on an image of the human fleet regrouping around the colony, while Kelari vessels burned. "This must be a trick, some kind of propaganda the humans created." Admiral Phaser laughed, a harsh, barking sound entirely devoid of humor. "I wish it were. This footage comes directly from the black box of the only ship that managed to escape, a small scout vessel that was at the edge of the system." The door to the command center hissed open and Science Director Luzel entered. Unlike the military officers with their impressive exoskeletons and chromatic scales, Luzel's body was encased in a mechanical support suit, his natural form too frail to withstand standard gravity. "Ah, I see you are reviewing the human counterattack," Luzel said, his voice modulated through speakers in his suit. "Fascinating, isn't it? They shouldn't have been capable of such resistance." Vasek turned all 10 eye stalks toward the scientist. "Do you have an explanation for this catastrophe?" "Several, actually," Luzel replied, connecting his suit to the command console. "May I?" The hologram shifted, displaying a human in a primitive spacesuit standing on their equally primitive moon next to a rudimentary lander. "This is from their historical archives," Luzel explained. "Approximately 5 of their centuries ago." Remember, at this point they had just developed basic computing systems and were using chemical rockets. The image changed to show vast human cities, ground vehicles spewing pollutants, and massive industrial complexes. Within 1 century of that moon landing, they had begun to destroy their own planet through industrialization. Yes, Vasek interrupted impatiently. "This is all in the briefing materials. Primitive, self-destructive, easy conquest." Clearly that assessment was flawed. "Not flawed," Luzel corrected, "incomplete. We failed to account for the human capacity for rapid advancement under pressure. Look at this progression." The hologram displayed a rapid sequence of human technological development, crude spacecraft giving way to more sophisticated designs, primitive weapons evolving into increasingly destructive arms. Their technological advancement doesn't follow the standard sigmoid curve of most species, Luzel continued. Instead, it exhibits exponential growth during periods of conflict or perceived threat. Vasix's mandibles clacked together in frustration. Are you suggesting they somehow knew we were coming? That's impossible. Our invasion plan was completely secret. No, Commander. I'm saying they were preparing for something, even if they didn't know it was us specifically. Humans have a peculiar psychological trait, paranoia, combined with extraordinary creativity. They imagine threats and then develop countermeasures for those imagined scenarios. Admiral Phaser, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. You mean they invented weapons to fight enemies that didn't exist? Precisely, Luzel confirmed. And when real enemies appeared, they simply deployed these countermeasures. Look at this. The hologram shifted again, showing humans gathering in what appeared to be some kind of governance chamber. A human female stood at a raised platform, addressing the assembly. For years, we have been called paranoid for maintaining military spending after the last war. We have been called warmongers for continuing weapons research during peacetime. Today, those investments have saved us all. The assembly erupted in approving vocalizations. The human continued, the Kelari thought they were dealing with the peaceful face of humanity, our explorers, our diplomats, our merchants. They never realized that beneath our civilization lies the survival instinct that carried us from being prey animals on the savannah to the stars. Vasix flicked his tendrils in annoyance. This is just human propaganda. And perhaps, Luzel admitted, but their actions matched their rhetoric. After repelling our initial assault, they didn't celebrate and relax. They immediately began fortifying their colony and preparing for our next attack. Furthermore, we have intercepted transmissions indicating they are mobilizing throughout their territory. So, we launch a larger assault, Vasix declared. The Confederation controls thousands of worlds. We can overwhelm them with sheer numbers. Admiral Phaser and Science Director Luzel exchanged glances. There's something else you should see, Commander, Phaser said quietly. A transmission broadcast on all frequencies after our retreat. The hologram changed again, showing a different human. This one wore no uniform but stood in what appeared to be a primitive command center. He was an older specimen with sparse white filaments on his head and deeply lined skin. To the leadership of the Kelari Confederation, the human began, his voice calm but carrying an undertone that caused Vasix's primary heart to skip a beat. My name is Dr. Miles Blackburn, Secretary General of the United Earth Alliance. I'm sending this message to clarify something that you clearly misunderstood. The human paused, leaning forward slightly. What you encountered was not our military. The ships that destroyed your armada were civilian vessels hastily retrofitted with defensive capabilities. The weapons they used were prototypes, not our finished designs. Vasix felt his scales rippling in disbelief. For most of our history, the human continued, humans have fought each other. We have become very, very good at it. But in recent centuries, we have channeled that capacity toward peaceful pursuits. We have pretended to be civilized. The human expression shifted subtly, and even across species, Vasix recognized the look of a predator. This is Earth's final warning. Stop attacking, or we stop pretending to be civilized. If you force us to fight for real, we will not stop until the Kelari Confederation exists only in historical archives. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. After several moments, Vasix found his voice. They are bluffing. They must be. No species could possibly hide that level of military capability. Luzel shook his head, the motion barely visible within his support suit. Commander, our preliminary analysis suggests they are telling the truth. The weapon signatures from the battle don't match any known military technology. They appear to be improvised from civilian research projects. What does that mean? Vasix demanded. It means, Admiral Phaser interjected, that we just attacked a species that doesn't have a dedicated military because they have never needed one. Everything they have accomplished so far has been the equivalent of grabbing whatever tools were at hand when unexpectedly confronted by a predator. A cold sensation washed over Vasix as the implications sank in. And if they actually organized for war? Then the Confederation may have made the greatest mistake in its 10,000-year history, Luzel finished. Commander Vasix Noor stared at the frozen image of the human with new understanding, and for the first time in his career, felt genuine fear. Strategic analyst Tisa Riv had never been summoned to the High Council before. As a junior member of the Intelligence Division, her reports typically filtered up through layers of bureaucracy, eventually reaching decision-makers in digested, anonymous form. Yet here she was, standing before the 9 most powerful Kelari in the Confederation, trying to keep her eye stalks from trembling visibly. Analyst Riv, High Counselor Mach addressed her, his ancient voice rasping like sandpaper on chitin. We have reviewed your psychological assessment of the human species. The Council finds your conclusions disturbing. Tisa straightened her posture, forcing confidence into her voice. The evidence supports my analysis, High Counselor. You claim these humans are not merely violent but possess a unique form of adaptive aggression unseen in any other sentient species, another counselor stated, reading from her report. Yes, Counselor Z. Unlike most predator species that evolve for specific hunting patterns, humans developed as persistence hunters with extraordinary environmental adaptability. They have maintained these traits despite their technological advancement. Counselor Mach leaned forward, his massive exoskeleton creaking with age. In plain language, Analyst River. Tisa took a deep breath. In plain language, sir, humans don't fight like any species we have encountered. They don't follow rules or established patterns. When threatened, they don't become more aggressive, they become more clever, more innovative, and more willing to break taboos. That cannot be evolutionarily stable, objected Counselor Dries, the youngest member of the High Council. Such traits would lead to self-destruction. With respect, Counselor, humans nearly did destroy themselves multiple times, Tisa replied. But each time, they pulled back from the brink and implemented control systems, what they call laws of war and ethical constraints. These aren't natural to them, they are artificial limitations they have imposed upon themselves. And you believe they are warning that they will abandon these self-imposed limitations? Counselor Mach asked. I do, sir. Human history demonstrates that when facing existential threats, they revert to what they call total war, a concept most civilized species find abhorrent. They will use any means necessary to ensure survival, regardless of previous ethical positions. The council chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the assembled leaders. Is retreat an option? Counselor Z finally asked. General Krav, the military representative on the council, shook his head emphatically. Impossible. The Confederation has never retreated in its history. Such an action would invite rebellion across 100 subjugated worlds. We would face internal collapse. Then we must strike decisively, Counselor Dries declared. If these humans are as dangerous as Analyst Riv suggests, we cannot allow them time to fully mobilize. Tisa felt panic rising in her thorax. Counselors, if I may. You may not, General Krav cut her off. You have provided your analysis, Analyst River's strategic decisions are the domain of this council. High Counselor Mach raised a gnarled appendage for silence. We will hear the analyst's final thoughts before dismissing her. All eyes turned to Tisa. Counselors, I believe attacking the humans again would be catastrophic, she said, forcing each word past her fear. My analysis of their communication patterns suggests they were genuinely shocked by our aggression. Before our attack, they had no hostile intent toward the Confederation. Are you suggesting diplomacy? General Krav asked incredulously. I am suggesting survival, Tisa replied. The humans outnumber us, their technology is advancing at an alarming rate, and they possess psychological traits that make them exceptionally dangerous when threatened. But they also demonstrate a remarkable capacity for cooperation and alliance building. She projected a simple graph showing comparative birth rates and technological advancement curves. Even if we committed our entire military, projections indicate humans would surpass our capabilities within 2 of their years. They breed faster, innovate faster, and adapt faster than we do. But they also forgive, another trait rare among evolved predators. The council members exchanged glances. "You will wait outside," High Counselor Mock finally said. "The council must deliberate in private." Tisa bowed and exited the chamber, her limbs weak with relief at having survived the presentation. Outside, she found Commander Vasix Nur waiting, his scales now a mottled pattern of stress coloration. "How did they receive your assessment?" he asked without preamble. "About as well as you'd expect," she replied. "General Krov wants to attack immediately." Vasix clicked his mandibles in frustration. "That fool will doom us all." "Did you show them the new intelligence?" "I didn't get the chance," Tisa admitted. "They dismissed me before I could present the deep space monitoring data." "Then I must insist on addressing them myself," Vasix declared, moving toward the chamber doors. Tisa grabbed his arm, an egregious breach of protocol that made them both freeze in shock. She quickly released him. "Commander, forgive me, but rushing in there will only harden their position. Let them reach their own conclusion first before." Before Vasix could respond, the chamber doors opened, and an aide emerged. "The council requests Commander Nur's presence." Vasix gave Tisa a meaningful look before entering, his posture rigid with determination. Left alone in the antechamber, Tisa connected to the intelligence network through her neural implant, reviewing the latest data streams from the human territories. What she saw made her primary heart stutter with dread. The humans weren't just preparing for another attack, they were mobilizing on a scale that defied comprehension. Industrial outputs had increased by 300% across their territories. Civilian shipping had been completely reorganized into military logistics chains. And, most alarming, energy signatures suggested they were converting entire asteroids into weapons platforms. All this in just 14 days since the initial attack. The chamber doors opened again, startling Tisa from her review. Commander Vasix emerged, his color now stabilized to a professional blue. "Well?" she asked anxiously. "The council has made its decision," he replied, his voice perfectly neutral. Tisa felt her stomach sink. "They are attacking again?" "No," Vasix said, surprising her. "They are sending me to negotiate." "But you are a military commander, not a diplomat." Vasix's mandibles formed the Kelari equivalent of a grim smile. "Precisely why I'm the perfect choice. I represent our military strength while offering an olive branch." "A what branch?" "Human expression. I have been studying them." He gestured for her to follow as he strode down the corridor. "You are coming with me, Analyst River. The council was particularly impressed by your psychological assessment." Tisa hurried to keep pace with his longer strides. "Commander, I have never participated in diplomatic missions. My analysis was theoretical, based on historical data, and it was correct," Vasix interrupted, "more correct than you know." "The deep space intelligence you didn't get to present?" "I showed it to them. That's what changed their minds. They entered a secure transport that would take them to the spaceport." "How long do we have before departure?" Tisa asked, her mind racing through preparations. 6 hours. Just enough time for emergency diplomatic training and to review the latest intelligence. Tisa's eye stalks quivered with anxiety. 6 hours to prepare for negotiating the Confederation's survival? No pressure. Vasix actually laughed, a sound she'd never heard from the typically stern commander. "If it makes you feel better, the humans are sending a negotiator named Dr. Eleanor Reeves, who until 2 weeks ago was a xenobiology professor, not a diplomat." "That doesn't make me feel better at all," Tisa replied. "It just confirms they are selecting representatives based on relevant expertise rather than traditional protocols. They are approaching this rationally, adapting to circumstances." "Exactly," Vasix said, his tone now serious. "And we must do the same if the Confederation is to survive. The age of conquest is over, Analyst River. In one way or another, the Kelari must learn to coexist in this galaxy." As their transport accelerated toward the spaceport, Tisa couldn't shake the feeling that regardless of the negotiation's outcome, the Confederation would never be the same again. Neither, she suspected, would the humans. The diplomatic vessel Tranquil Discourse dropped out of hyperspace at the designated coordinates, a neutral zone between Kelari and human territories. Commander Vasix Nur stood on the bridge, outwardly projecting calm authority while his internal organs performed gymnastics. "Status report," he demanded, keeping his voice level. Navigation Officer Prell consulted her instruments. "We have arrived precisely at the designated coordinates, Commander. No sign of the human vessel yet." "They are still 20 minutes early," Tisa Riv pointed out, checking the chronometer. The humans agreed to meet in contact, the sensor officer interrupted. "Unknown configuration bearing 045 by 173. Zoom toward the main view screen. Show me." The screen flickered to life, displaying what at first appeared to be empty space. Then the magnification increased, and a sleek vessel seemingly materialized from nowhere. Unlike the bulky, pragmatic designs of Kelari ships, this craft was almost artistic, smooth curves blending into sharp angles, its hull a deep matte black that seemed to devour light rather than reflect it. "That cannot be the diplomatic vessel," Vasix said, mandibles clicking nervously. "It looks like a warship." Tisa studied the approaching craft. "Actually, Commander, I believe that is their diplomatic vessel. Remember, humans don't maintain separate military and civilian fleets. Their ships are multifunctional." "Multifunctional," Vasix repeated dryly. "How reassuring." The communications officer raised a limb. "Incoming transmission, Commander." On screen. The view screen shifted to show a human female with dark skin and short, tightly curled hair. She wore a simple dark uniform without adornment or visible rank insignia. "Kelari vessel, this is Dr. Eleanor Reeves aboard the UEA Olive Branch. We appreciate your punctuality." Vasix stepped forward. "Dr. Reeves, I am Commander Vasix Nur, representing the Kelari Confederation. This is Strategic Analyst Tisa Riv, our specialist in human psychology." Dr. Reeves nodded. "Excellent. I have brought Dr. Jiro Tanaka, our xenobiologist, and Captain Youssef Amir, military liaison. I propose we conduct these discussions face-to-face. Our vessel has a suitable neutral conference room with accommodations for Kelari physiology." Vasix hesitated. Boarding a human vessel placed them at significant risk, but refusing would signal distrust at the outset of negotiations. "That would be acceptable," he replied, making a quick decision. "Analyst Riv and I will shuttle over immediately." Dr. Reeves smiled, the expression causing her facial muscles to contract in what Tisa recognized as a non-threatening display. "We look forward to your arrival. Olive Branch out." As the transmission ended, Vasix turned to Tisa. "Thoughts?" "Their ship name is significant," she replied. Olive Branch is a human symbol of peace, originating from ancient religious texts. They are sending a deliberate message. "Or setting a trap," Vasix countered. Tisa's eye stalks swiveled in their equivalent of a head shake. "If they wanted us dead, Commander, they wouldn't need a trap. The data I have been reviewing suggests their weapons technology has advanced significantly even in the days since our initial confrontation." Vasix stared at the black ship on the view screen. "Then we'd better make sure these negotiations succeed." The shuttle journey to the human vessel took just under 15 minutes, during which Tisa attempted to brief the commander on last-minute human cultural nuances. "Remember, they expect a certain amount of eye contact, but staring is considered aggressive, and they use facial expressions extensively for communication, so watch for." "Analyst Riv," Vasix interrupted gently. "I appreciate your thoroughness, but if I try to remember every nuance of human behavior, I will be too distracted to negotiate effectively." Tisa's scales flushed with embarrassment. "Of course, Commander. I apologize." "Don't apologize. Your insights are valuable, but perhaps focus on the most critical aspects." "What should I absolutely not do?" She considered for a moment. "Don't show aggression through posture or mandible displays.
Humans are hardwired to respond to perceived threats with escalation. And don't dismiss their concerns about civilian casualties. Humans place extraordinary value on individual lives, even during conflict. Vasix nodded, absorbing this. And what should I do to establish rapport? Acknowledge their capability without appearing intimidated. Humans respect strength but respond well to honesty. Oh, and they appreciate what they call getting to the point, minimal ceremonial preamble. The shuttle slowed as it approached the olive branch's docking bay. No ceremonial preamble, Vasix repeated. That at least will be refreshing after High Council meetings. The shuttle settled onto the deck with a gentle thud. Through the viewport, they could see 3 humans waiting, Dr. Reeves from the transmission, plus 2 males of different pigmentation and physical builds. Here we go, Vasix murmured, trying to ignore the instinctive fear response triggered by the sight of the predatory bipeds. The shuttle door opened, and they stepped out into the human ship. Immediately, Vasix noticed the environmental adjustments. The temperature and humidity had been modified to closer match Kelari comfort ranges, and the lighting dimmed to accommodate their more sensitive visual organs. Commander Noor, Analyst Riv, Dr. Reeves stepped forward, keeping a respectful distance. Welcome aboard the Olive Branch. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting, Vasix performed a simplified greeting gesture. Thank you for the accommodations, Dr. Reeves. We appreciate the consideration. Of course, she replied. Allow me to introduce my colleagues. This is Dr. Jiro Tanaka, who has studied Kelari biology and culture for the past decade. The smaller male human bowed slightly. Commander, Analyst, it's an honor to meet you in person. And this is Captain Youssef Amir, representing our defense forces. The larger human nodded curtly, his posture rigidly controlled. Commander Vasix noted the captain's restraint, clearly deliberate, possibly hiding anger or aggression. He would need watching. If you will follow me, Dr. Reeves continued, we have prepared a conference room. Refreshments compatible with Kelari biology are available. They proceeded through corridors that seemed unnecessarily spacious by Kelari standards. Tisa recognized the design choice as consideration for species with claustrophobic tendencies, another small gesture of accommodation. The conference room featured a round table with equal seating positions, obvious symbolism that Vasix appreciated. As they settled into the ergonomically modified chairs, he decided to follow Tisa's advice about getting to the point. Dr. Reeves, the Kelari Confederation regrets the recent hostilities and seeks a peaceful resolution to this conflict. Dr. Reeves raised an eyebrow, the subtle movement conveying surprise at his directness. That's refreshingly straightforward, Commander. May I ask what changed? 2 weeks ago, your forces attacked without warning or provocation. Vasix felt his scales heat with shame. The attack was ordered based on flawed intelligence and certain unfortunate cultural assumptions. Cultural assumptions? Captain Amir interjected, his voice tight. You murdered 30,000 civilians because of cultural assumptions? Dr. Reeves placed a hand on the captain's arm. Youssef. The captain subsided, but his expression remained hostile. Captain Amir's concern is valid, Vasix acknowledged. The Confederation has a history of expansion through confrontation. Species that demonstrate technological capability without corresponding military strength have traditionally been viewed as opportunities. Pray, Captain Amir stated flatly. Vasix's mandibles twitched with discomfort. An unpleasant characterization, but not entirely inaccurate. Our intelligence suggested humans possessed impressive technological achievements but limited defensive capabilities. This assessment was catastrophically wrong. It wasn't wrong, Dr. Tanaka said softly, not entirely. We don't maintain a traditional military, but that doesn't mean we can't fight. Tisa leaned forward. That's precisely what fascinates me about your species. You have channeled your aggressive tendencies into innovation and exploration rather than military development. Yet when threatened, you rapidly repurpose that innovation for defense. Dr. Reeves nodded. Necessity is the mother of invention, as we say. When your forces attacked Proxima Colony,
the civilian research station there had been developing gravitational manipulation technology for mining operations.
Within hours, they'd repurposed it to disrupt your ship's structural integrity. Those weren't weapons? Vasix asked, astonished. Not originally, no.
Captain Amir's voice carried a hint of pride. Just like the atmospheric processors that were modified to disrupt your targeting systems, or the medical nanites reprogrammed to disable your ground forces exoskeletons.
Vasix and Tisa exchanged alarmed glances.
You seem surprised, Dr. Reeves observed. We were told your defense was improvised, Vasix replied carefully, but the scale and effectiveness suggest a level of preparation that exceeds mere improvisation. Dr. Reeves's expression grew serious. Commander, humans have a saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. We have encountered enough hostile organisms on our own world to develop a healthy paranoia about the universe at large. We weren't specifically prepared for a Kelari attack, but we were prepared for something.
Which brings us to our current situation. Tisa interjected, the Confederation High Council recognizes that continued aggression would be inadvisable. We seek terms for peaceful coexistence.
Captain Amir laughed, a sharp sound without humor.
After a single defeat, you are ready to talk peace? How convenient.
Dr. Tanaka said mildly, I have studied Kelari culture extensively. For them to initiate peace talks after a military engagement is unprecedented. This represents a significant cultural shift. Or a tactical retreat while they build up forces for a larger attack, Captain Amir countered.
Vasix felt his patience wearing thin.
Captain Amir, with respect, if the Confederation decided on conquest, we would commit our entire fleet, over 30,000 capital ships.
Based on your demonstration at Proxima Centauri B, would you honestly believe that would be a worthwhile endeavor? Captain Amir's jaw tightened, but he remained silent.
The Confederation is willing to offer reparations for the loss of life and damage to property caused by our initial attack, Vasix continued. We are also open to sharing certain technologies and resources to foster a relationship of mutual benefit.
What kind of technologies? Dr. Reeves asked.
We have developed advanced energy storage systems and efficient recycling processes that could be of significant value to your colonies, Vasix replied.
And what would you want in return? Captain Amir asked, suspicion evident in his voice.
Access to your knowledge of hyperspace navigation and your expertise in terraforming uninhabitable worlds, Vasix answered.
Dr. Reeves considered this. Those are significant concessions, Commander.
I will need to relay this to our governing bodies. In the meantime, I suggest we establish a framework for communication and cooperation to prevent any further misunderstandings.
Agreed, Vasix said.
We can establish a joint task force to monitor border regions and share intelligence on potential threats. And a cultural exchange program, Tisa suggested, to promote better understanding between our species.
Dr. Reeves smiled. Those are excellent suggestions. It seems we have a basis for moving forward. The negotiations continued for several hours, hammering out the details of the proposed agreements.
Vasix found himself impressed by the humans' pragmatism and their ability to balance idealism with realism. They were shrewd negotiators, but also fair and willing to compromise. As the meeting drew to a close, Dr. Reeves stood and extended a hand toward Vasix. Commander, I believe this is the beginning of a new chapter in the relationship between our species. Vasix hesitated for a moment, then took the human's hand, the gesture feeling strangely alien and yet somehow hopeful. I hope you are right, Dr. Reeves. The future of both our civilizations may depend on it.
The High Council projects catastrophic casualties on both sides, such losses are deemed unacceptable. Silence descended upon the conference room as the implications of his statement resonated. 30,000 ships? Dr. Reeves finally inquired.
Our intelligence suggested your fleet was significantly smaller. Vasix realized he had divulged more than he intended but continued, Doctor, the Confederation encompasses 800 star systems. Our military reflects that scale. However, we have no desire to test our numbers against your ingenuity.
Dr. Reeves scrutinized him.
Commander, I believe you are sincere, but trust must be earned. particularly after an unprovoked assault.
What would establish that trust? Tisa asked.
The three humans exchanged glances, seemingly communicating silently through subtle facial cues. Withdrawal from the border regions near human space, preparations for Proxima colony, Dr. Reeves stated finally, and a formal alliance treaty that includes technological exchange.
Vasix's eye stalks quivered in surprise. Alliance? Not merely a non-aggression pact? Non-aggression assumes continued separation, Dr. Tanaka elucidated. Humans prefer integration, we build relationships rather than boundaries.
The High Council might accept reparations and withdrawal, Vasix said cautiously, but alliance is unprecedented.
The Confederation doesn't ally, it conquers, or it ignores.
Then perhaps it's time for the Confederation to evolve, Dr. Reeves suggested, because I can assure you, Commander, humans don't do well with being ignored, and we have demonstrated what happens when you attempt to conquer us. Captain Amir leaned forward, his earlier hostility replaced with intense focus.
Let me be clear, Commander.
The ships you encountered were civilian vessels with hasty modifications. What you are seeing now, he gestured around them, is still not our military because we don't have one, not yet.
But we could.
Dr. Reeves added quietly, if forced to choose between developing a dedicated war machine and maintaining our focus on scientific advancement and exploration, we would greatly prefer the latter.
But make no mistake, we will choose survival at any cost.
Vasix understood the implicit threat. If pushed, humans would cease their pretense of civilization and become the nightmare predators their evolutionary history had forged them to be. I will present your terms to the High Council, Vasix said, but alliance will be a difficult concept for them to accept.
Perhaps this will help, Dr. Tanaka said, sliding a data crystal across the table.
It contains historical records of human conflicts and subsequent alliances, former enemies who became stronger together than they ever were.
Tisa picked up the crystal, her scientific curiosity overriding protocol. This could be enormously helpful in presenting the case to the Council.
There's something else, Dr. Reeves said, her tone shifting, something that may change the calculus for your leadership. She nodded to Captain Amir, who activated a holographic display in the center of the table. It showed a star map of the galaxy with highlighted regions representing known territories. 3 days ago, our deep space monitoring network detected these energy signatures, Captain Amir said, zooming the display to show a region far from both human and Kelari space. Vasix felt his blood cool as he recognized the pattern.
The Vex hierarchy. You know them?
Dr. Reeves asked sharply. We have had encounters, Vasix admitted, centuries ago. They are a silicon-based hive species with a religious mandate to purify organic life. They consider biological existence an abomination. They are mobilizing, Captain Amir stated, and based on their trajectory, they will reach the outer colonies of both our civilizations within 2 years.
The implications struck Vasix like a physical blow.
The Confederation had barely survived their last encounter with the Vex, and that was when the hierarchy was much smaller, much farther away.
Now do you understand why we are proposing alliance rather than mere non-aggression? Dr. Reeves asked.
Separately, our civilizations might withstand the Vex. Together, our chances improve significantly.
Vasix stared at the holographic display, watching the simulated movement of the Vex fleet. Everything was changing so quickly.
2 weeks ago, the Confederation was the unchallenged power in this sector. Now, they faced not only a shockingly capable human species but the return of their ancient enemy. The High Council must see this, he said finally.
This changes everything.
We thought it might, Dr. Reeves replied, which is why we are prepared to offer immediate military cooperation against the Vex threat, regardless of the status of our broader diplomatic relations.
Tisa blinked in surprise. You would help defend Kelari worlds despite our recent aggression? The Vex don't distinguish between human or Kelari organic matter, Captain Amir said grimly. They want all biological life exterminated.
We are pragmatic enough to recognize when we face a common enemy. Vasix felt a new emotion stirring beneath his exoskeleton, hope, mixed with a grudging admiration for these strange, contradictory creatures, humans who could switch from peaceful exploration to devastating warfare in moments, who could offer